What is going on, college basketball fans? Today we're taking a look at your guys' hot takes for this college basketball season. I'm going to grade them 1 to 10 based on how likely I think that this hot take is to happen. 1 being I think it is a very realistic take. I think that is 100% going to happen. 10 being this is a extremely hot, flaming take that definitely will not happen. And yeah, closer you are to 10, less realistic I think it is to happen. Closer you are to 1, the more realistic I think is going to happen. I hope that makes sense. I'm ready to get it started. Let's subscribe for more college basketball content, and let's get into our first hot take. First one is coming in here from Ryan Berge, and he says the Big 12 will have 10 teams make the March Madness tournament this season. Now, at first glance, you're like, wow, 10 teams. That seems like a lot. But we know the Big 12 Conference is the best league in the NCAA. And after further review, I'm actually going to give this a solid 3.3. I'm going to give it a 3.3 because the only reason I would say that is not a 2 or a 1 is because it is very possible that out of the 11 teams that I think could make the March Madness tournament out of the Big 12, it is possible 2 of them, go on a massive losing streak, just fall off a little bit, and just barely miss the tournament. I could definitely see that happening, and only 9 teams getting in. So that's the only reason it's not a 1 or a 2. I'm going to give it a solid 3.3 because the only teams that I think can't make the March Madness tournament out of the Big 12 are West Virginia, Central Florida, and Oklahoma State. Unless they somehow win the Big 12 tournament, that is not going to happen. So the other 11 teams, you got Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas, TCU, Kansas State, Baylor, BYU, Texas, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma. I mean, all those very much have potential. I could see teams like Texas, Cincinnati, even maybe like a BYU or a Baylor just potentially falling off and missing the tournament. So that is the only reason it is not getting higher, but a very solid hot take that I think is realistic. I think it is going to happen, and I'm going to give it a 3.3 out of 10 rating on the hotness scale. Next up, we got a hot take coming in here from Almighty Braun Beast, and that, his username makes sense given this hot take. He says USC finishes the season hot, makes a deep run in the tournament led by Bronny James. Now, this is a very hot take. I don't believe this is going to happen. For this to happen, especially with the Pac-12 being so weak, their only quad 1 opportunity is going to be against Arizona. I don't think they are going to win that game, and even if they do, I don't think it is going to be enough for them to make it to March Madness. Now, USC got off to a hot start. They beat Kansas State early in the season, but ever since then, they have played pretty bad. And honestly, unless they can somehow win the Pac-12 tournament, I don't think that they are going to be in March Madness. However, if they do somehow turn it around, I do think that Bronny James will have a huge role in that, along with Isaiah Collier and Boogie Ellis, Kobe Johnson. All these guys will have to play outstanding. So if USC does somehow get a bid steal and make it into March Madness, then they also would have to make a deep run in the tournament for this hot take to happen. I'm going to give this a solid 9.7 out of 10. I am very confident that this is not going to happen. This is a very hot take. USC has not been good this year. Bronny James is not even their best player. I don't even think he's their second best player. And yeah, I don't think this is going to happen. Bronny James is going to be a great player. He's just a freshman in college basketball, and because of who his dad is, he had a whole lot of high expectations, but he is going to develop. I hope he returns to college next year because he is going to continue to get better and better. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to give it a 9.7. Next up, we got one from Koa, and they say all Big Ten teams will lose before the Sweet 16. Now, this is kind of interesting because you really think about it. The Big Ten have struggled in March Madness, over the past so many years, but to say that all of the Big Ten teams will lose before the Sweet 16, I mean, of course the big one is Purdue. Do we think that Purdue is going to lose before the Sweet 16 once again this season? I think they're at least going to make the Sweet 16 this year, and I'm also fairly confident in Wisconsin Illinois, or Northwestern. I feel like one of those three teams are going to at least make it to the Sweet 16, if not multiple of them. I could see that as well. So I think that this is very hot, but I don't think that it is like insane to think Purdue could get upset, Wisconsin could get upset, and Illinois and Northwestern also lose in the round of 32. Like, I don't think that it is completely impossible. I'm going to give it a solid 9.2 out of 10, only because Purdue and Wisconsin especially have been pretty impressive so far this season. I do think Northwestern and Illinois both have a chance to make it to the Sweet 16, or potentially even further as well. So I'm going to rate it a 9.2 out of 10. Pretty hot take, but maybe a little bit more realistic than the last one. Up, we got one coming in here from Mikey Mann, and he says no 1 seeds will make it to the Final Four. Kind of interesting. You guys may think, well, there's no way that happens. At least one of the 1 seeds are going to make it to the Final Four. Well, this very thing that he says could happen actually just happened last season, so it is definitely not impossible. However, I do feel like the 1 seeds are very strong this year. If the season ended today, I feel like our 1 seeds would probably be UConn, Purdue, North Carolina, and Houston. It's hard to think that one of those teams would not make the Final Four, especially because I feel like UConn, Purdue, and North Carolina are so clearly the top 3 teams in the country right now. It's hard to believe not one of them will make it to the Final Four. So very hot, but not only has this happened before, but it just happened also last year. So I don't think it is extremely unrealistic. I'm going to give it a solid 8.7 out of 10. I mean, crazy things happen in March Madness. I don't think it is very hot to that extremely unrealistic to think that it couldn't happen again next year, but it happened 2 years in a row, especially when the 1 seed seemed really strong this year. I'm going to rate it 8.7, but crazy things happen in March. Definitely leaving some wiggle room for this to potentially happen. Next up, we got one coming in here from Long Hair Miller, and they say Gonzaga will not be in the March Madness tournament this year, and this is a tough one because they definitely have a great roster. Ryan Nembhard, Antoine Watson, they got some solid, Graham Ike, they got some solid players on their roster, and Mark Few has not missed the tournament in so long with Gonzaga. But they have been turning up lately. Yes, they have a couple of bad losses in West Coast Conference play. They got a big game against St. Mary's. It's always the biggest game of the year in the West Coast Conference. If they can win that game, then I definitely think that they are probably going to end up winning the league. And I don't see it happening. I think that it's going to come down to them or St. Mary's to win the West Coast Conference this season. They could get an auto bid from that, and even if they don't win it, I think that they could still get an at-large bid, even if they are a lower seed. So I don't think this is impossible that they miss the tournament. I'm going to rate it a solid 8. 8 out of 10. I think it's pretty hot, but I definitely could see Gonzaga losing a few more games to teams they shouldn't that might be quad 3, quad 4 losses, and also losing to St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference Championship game, to where they will miss out on the tournament. So I'm going to leave a little bit of room there. I think Gonzaga will be in the tourney, though. I'm going to rate it 8. We got one coming in here from Brian Fair, and he says, Michigan Wolverines will win Big Ten tournament and NCAA tournament. I mean, no, this is not going to happen. I'm going to rate this a 10 out of 10. If I am wrong, I will get a Michigan tattoo on my arm, a Michigan logo, 2024 March Madness champions. This is not going to happen. 10 out of 10, super hot take, will not happen. Could they potentially make it make a run through the Big Ten tournament, get a bid steal? Okay, then you're looking at more like a 9.4, 9.5 out of 10. But then for them to go on with the season that they've had and win the entire championship, I mean, I know Michigan has been known to make some runs as a lower seed, but come on, this is not going to happen. 10 out of 10, hot take, will not happen. Next up, we got one coming in here from Connecticut 511. He says Butler will be a top 10 or top 5 team in the Big East. Yeah, I think that this is not a super unrealistic hot take. Butler has been turning up lately, and then you have teams like Villanova, who have been starting to lose lately, and also Seton Hall, who was off to an amazing start to the start of conference play, but are now on a little bit of a losing streak. I don't think it's super unrealistic. You, of course, got UConn, Marquette, Creighton at the top. Then I believe that Seton Hall, St. John's are probably better than Butler. Providence is starting to turn up a little bit, and I feel like Butler is in that 6 to 8 range with Villanova and Providence. Right now, I would probably put them at 7 behind Providence at 6, St. John's, Seton Hall in the 5 and 4 spots, somewhere in there. But I don't think it is impossible for them to jump Providence, jump either St. John's or Seton Hall, and be in the top 5 of the Big East standings by the end of the year. I do think that they probably are the 7th best team talent-wise in the Big East, so I am going to rate this probably a 8.1 out of 10. I think that is realistic. They are playing very great right now, but I do think that they probably will more likely finish in that 6 to 8 range in the Big East rather than the top 5. Next up, we got one coming in here from Caleb Lewis. He says Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12, and right now they have the best conference record in Big 12 play. They're 6-1. They're the only Big 12 team with only one conference loss, and they're playing outstanding. They have a great backcourt. They have a good front court. They have great defense, and they're playing very well. But to say they're the best team in the Big 12, I just can't quite get there. I don't think that they're quite as good as a team like Houston, especially when I know that they were on the road, but they went to Houston and lost by like 20 points. I just think Houston is the much better team, and then arguably teams like Kansas and Iowa State are better than Texas Tech as well, and TCU's right there as well. Now, Texas Tech is 100% a top 5 team in the Big 12, and probably top 3 right now for me. But I think that Houston is for sure better than them. Kansas and Iowa State could be better than them. So I'm gonna rate it at 8.8. They're one of the best teams in the Big 12. It is possible they could win the Big 12. They're in first place right now, but I think it is going to end up being Houston or Kansas, possibly Iowa State or Texas Tech to win the league, but I'm going to rate it at 8.8. Texas Tech, a very solid team, though. Next up, we got one coming in here from the Countdown Pod. He says Michigan State will still win the national title, even despite their slow start to the season. They got off to a rough start. We all thought that they would be a national championship contender this year, and like the Countdown Pod, I still believe that they have a chance as well. I mean, Tom Izzo works really good as a underdog, as a lower seed in March Madness, and he has a roster that is built for March Madness to go far. He has 3 very good guards on his team in Tyson Walker, AJ Hoggard, and Jaden Atkins. He has some great young players, some great veteran presence. He has some good depth on this team. They just need some consistency and to win some basketball games. So I definitely think that when we get to March, Izzo, he does so good in March Madness to make a run. For them to win the national championship, though, I feel like it's a little bit unrealistic. It definitely could happen, but I'm going to rate it a 9.1 out of 10. I'm going to leave some room for there. I definitely think that it could happen. But right now, they're playing inconsistent. I just don't know if I can see it happening right now. They're going to have to go on a little bit of a run here towards the end of the season and kind of, make people believe that they still are that team that had the potential all off season to win the national championship, be Tom Izzo's second Michigan State team to do it. Got one coming in here from Torin Clutterman. I hope that I'm saying that right. Wisconsin is your national champions, with AJ Storr being first team All-American and Max Klesmit being all Big Ten first team. Now, I like this hot take a lot. I'd say that he's probably a Wisconsin fan, but Wisconsin's playing really, really good, and AJ Storr is killing it as well. Now, this is a very hot take because not only does Wisconsin have to win the national championship, but AJ Storr has to make first team All-American when there are a lot of guards playing really good basketball right now that I would take over AJ Storr 100% as my first team All-American. So that is going to make this very hard. And Max Klesmit could potentially make it to an All-Big Ten team, but first team All-Big Ten, he's playing lights out. He's a great shooter for this Wisconsin Badgers team. I just don't see that happening either. I don't necessarily see Wisconsin winning the national championship either. I think that they could be a sneaky Final Four team. I don't think that I see them winning the national championship. I'm going to rate this a solid 9.8 out of 10. No, I'm rating it a 10. 10, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I like AJ Storr. I like Wisconsin. Like I said, I think they could be a sneaky Final Four team. They're not winning the national championship this year. And if they do, I still don't necessarily think AJ Storr is a first-team All-American player. And, yeah, I just don't see this all happening. So I'm going to rate it a 10 out of 10. We got one coming in here from M Sports. He says Iowa State goes undefeated at home this season. And, yes, they are undefeated at home in Hilton Coliseum so far this year. I think it is one of the hardest places to play in college basketball. I think it's the second hardest place to play in the Big 12, just behind Allen Fieldhouse. And, yeah, nobody's been able to go in there and get a dub so far this year, including the Kansas Jayhawks. So I don't know if anyone is going to do it. I'm going to rate this a 8.9 out of 10 because it is so hard. I know they're at home. Like, I could see it happening. I think that they could definitely make it happen and win the rest of their games that they have at home. But it is so hard, especially with the Big 12 being so good. They just have to slip up one game, and this hot take just doesn't work out. So I'm going to rate it 8.9. I like Iowa State. I love their atmosphere. I have to go to Ames and go to an Iowa State basketball game at some point very, very soon. It is an atmosphere I definitely have to witness, and it is definitely possible. So I'm going to give it an 8.9 out of 10. A couple more. Real quick, I got one coming in here from Michaela, and she says that Danysology will announce our engagement on his video this week. And yes, this is going to happen. Me and Michaela are engaged. So for you guys that have been following my channel, we are now engaged. That is an announcement, middle of this video, for you guys to know. Yeah, your boy Danysology is going to be married soon. So that is going to happen. And yeah. Alright, we're going to do about 3 more. Our next one is coming in here from WVU Fan 129. He says that Kansas won't make it past the first weekend of the tournament, but Purdue will. So this is very interesting. I do kind of feel like Kansas has potential to be upset early in the year. The only thing keeping me from thinking this is going to happen, it would obviously depend on who their matchup is in their first 2 games, what draw they get in March Madness. I could definitely see Kansas being a team that gets upset early, but I think that Kevin McCullar is the best player on Kansas this year. I think that he has been playing better than Hunter Dickinson, which is hard to say because Hunter Dickinson is playing great. I think Kevin McCullar has been killing it this year, and I think that he might be able to lead them to at least Sweet 16, Elite 8, that area. I think they're going to make it to the second weekend. I also think Purdue will, but to say that Kansas is going to get upset, I don't think Kansas is necessarily a top tier team this year like they have been the past couple of years. And yeah, I'm going to probably rate this about a 7.5. I don't think it's super unrealistic to think that Kansas will get upset early. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the first round here. It could be the round of 32 as well, which is where they lost last year. I'm going to rate it 7.5 out of 10. Very good hot take. One's coming in here from College Football Trafficker. He says Creighton will make it to the Elite 8 back-to-back years. They made it last year, ended up losing to San Diego State in order to make it to the Final Four. I think that McDermott is a great coach. He's going to be ready, have his guys ready. They're playing great right now and on a roll. I think that they can make it to the Elite 8. I think they're a Sweet 16 team for sure, but it depends on the matchups there, because I think that Creighton is very good, but if they have to face an elite team like they did against Marquette this year, or not Marquette, like they did against UConn this year, they lost that one, and it kind of shows like the level they're on, because there's levels to this, right? I think that they're going to get that Sweet 16, Elite 8 level, and that's probably where they are going to end up going out. I think that their ceiling this year is probably to make it to the Final Four. I'm going to rate this a solid 8 out of 10. Just an 8. I'm going to rate it 8 out of 10. It's very hard to make it to the Elite 8, especially back-to-back years. I think they have the roster to do it. But yeah, I'm going to rate this at 8 out of 10. Last hot take of this video. There were a ton of them that I just couldn't get to. We're already about 20 minutes into this video, so I don't want to go too long here. If you guys want to see another one, if you guys didn't get your hot take in this video, and you guys want to see another episode, let me know, and we can definitely do this again here in a couple of weeks. But our last hot take is coming in here from Trey Des Green. He says, Final Four matchups this year will be Grand Canyon versus TCU and Kentucky versus Creighton. So another Creighton one. He thinks Creighton can get to the Final Four. Like I said, I think that Creighton's ceiling is probably Elite 8 or Final Four this year. Kentucky, I think, is a very realistic Final Four pick. TCU, definitely a sleeper Final Four pick. They've been playing great recently. They have some awesome players. Emmanuel Miller stepped up. Jameer Nelson Jr. is awesome. He's starting to turn up as of late. And then Grand Canyon, one of the best mid-majors in college basketball. Now, to say Grand Canyon is going to make it all the way to the Final Four, very, very hot. And for all four of these specific teams to make it to the tournament is pretty hot. So I'm going to rate this a 9.8. However, if this was the Final Four, I would love it. I think that this would be one of the best Final Fours you could ask for. You got some Cinderellas, some sleeper teams, some good matchups. It would be definitely a treat to watch, but it's going to have to be rated a 9.8 or a 9.9 just for like these specific teams to make it there. I personally would love that Final Four and those matchups, and for those teams to all make it there. I just don't think it's realistic for all of them to make it there. It's just so specific. But that's going to do it for this hot takes video. Like I said, we couldn't get to all of them, so let me know if you guys want to see another one of these very, very soon. And I will try to get to, the people that I didn't get to in this video. And yeah, guys, subscribe for more college basketball content. We're getting super close to March, and you're not going to want to miss all the videos I have planned here to come out very soon. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching.